You're listening to a podcast from the South China Morning Post.
Hey Sam, it's been a while since we sat down for the podcast.
It has, hasn't it, Charmaine? It's been a couple of months, but I think we've got a really good reason to be back on the mic together today.
Because it's one of our favorite topics, dim sum.
Oh, yeah. And for our regular listeners, you might be thinking, didn't you guys already do a dim sum episode? But our episode today will be a little bit different from that one.
Right, because last time we talked about dim sum dishes that are on the verge of disappearing, like quail egg siu mai and preserved sausage buns. But today, instead of endangered dim sum, we're focusing on how dim sum is evolving.
The history of dim sum dates back centuries, and while traditions are dying out, there are many chefs in Hong Kong and around the world who are preserving and even modernising dim sum. I'm Sam Evans.
I'm Charmaine Mott.
And this is Eat, Drink, Asia. This episode is brought to you by Cathay Pacific. Discover the flavours of Hong Kong on board with Cathay Pacific's renowned in-flight dining. From authentic Cantonese dim sum, a comforting bowl of congee, to hearty clay pot rice. Taste the difference in the detail as Cathay Pacific brings the best of Hong Kong cuisine to the skies. Indulge in this culinary journey at cathaypacific.com.
To learn more about how chefs in Hong Kong are putting their own twist on dim sum, we're turning to our regular guest and friend, Lisa Kam. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Lisa.
Hello, I'm back.
Lisa, you recently visited several dim sum masters in Hong Kong. What did you discover?
Well, I went to the Chinese library, the one that's located in Tai Kwun, not to be confused with Dim Sum Library, and Chef Juno Lee, who's been at the helm since its opening in 2018. I feel like it's a little bit overlooked.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe of the location, because there's so much going on in Tai Kwun. So, people wouldn't exactly think of going there for, the most exquisite dim sum experience. But Chef Juno Lee puts so much effort and so much study onto his plates. I feel he deserves some attention and some spotlight to what he's been doing.
No, yeah, I was eating at the Chinese library recently, but I did not have the dim sum. However, all of the dishes that I had were actually really, really surprising. I think that you're right in that Juno is a extremely underrated chef right now. He's so low-key, but the things that he's doing, it's actually really, really inspiring.
And when you talk to him, all he thinks about is what he creates on the plate. He doesn't even talk about himself, how hard it was for him. He makes rarely inferences to himself when you're talking about his creations. And it's really humbling to be sitting in front of someone like their entire mind is on their craft. Case in point, one of his signatures is the foie gras Fuji apple dumpling. It wasn't just putting something fruity and a foie gras and something fatty into a dim sum. He actually thought about the layers, the textures, how it hits the palate, and how he layered those flavors in that one bite.
In the first few attempts, there was no apple. We added it because foie gras is a very strong ingredient. We tried many ways to counter the fattiness using vegetables, but all of them were overpowered by the foie gras. Apple is a little acidic and quite juicy, so it was very important in making the dish lighter and fresher.
I mean, that's a pretty classic combination, right? Foie gras and apple. But to have it in a dim sum, can you tell us what he actually did? Was it a dumpling? Was it a fried thing? Was it steamed? What was it?
It was more of a steamed dumpling akin to a siu mai or a ha gao. Not only did he have foie gras a piece of on top for everybody to see, it was also incorporated into the filling as well. So when you bite into it, the first thing is the creamy fattiness on the palate, and then you start biting into the acidity of the little pieces of apple that he's cut up.
Freshness.
Yeah. But then at the same time, the filling starts melting on the palate as well. So you get a second wave of kind of that foie gras, fatty, creamy, and that unique kind of little acerbic kind of flavor to it. And before you're chewing more of the skin of it, just to bring you back that this is a dim sum and it's all incorporated in one bite. There are certain layers on the palate that he thinks about in the experience of eating that one bite. And talking to him about it was very inspiring.
So what do you think is Chef Juno's, what's the main driving force like for him to be so experimental with this? Is he just trying to push boundaries, or what do you think is the method behind the madness?
I think it's with any creator that they're always thinking about what they could do next and how they could surprise the person on the receiving end. And this time it's our palates. But I think with a lot of creators, whether they're an artist that paints or does sculptures, they're always just concentrating on their craft, which is all I'm getting when I talk to Juno. Mm-hmm. He travels to taste the different types of food, to incorporate it into his cuisine. Mm-hmm. One of the dishes we tried was a Sichuan chongfan.
Oh my, that sounds incredible. What does that even look like, taste like?
So think of the classic Sichuan fish dish, but incorporated into a chongfan.
Oh, so like sour and spicy.
Very saucy, and the middle was steamed fish. And he told me that, they were on a tasting trip to Sichuan, and it just occurred to them, how could we incorporate in a dim sum or chongfan even?
We took chongfan from Cantonese cuisine and added Sichuan ingredients and flavors to it.
But the experimentation process took a lot longer than you think. For example, you got to think about the spice level, because whatever spice level that you're having in Sichuan is going to be way over than the average tolerance of Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. And then the sauce that your chongfan sits in. It can't be too watery or too oily because that gets absorbed in the rice roll.
Yeah, you're going to have a problem if you make it too, that's just going to absorb it and you're going to end up with a wet mess if you're not careful,
soggy
right?
Chongfan is the worst.
Oh, yeah. Sacrilege.
I know. And he had to experiment with, the filling. I mean, fish is a bit more watery than your average pork or beef, and how that turns out when it's steamed. So, balancing all that. But he did tell me that the hardest part was the sauce.
Hong Kongers like dishes with a sweet element in it, so we added dried shrimp for sweetness and umami. This makes the sauce more suitable for our Hong Kong diners.
I feel like to him, the inspiration is all around him all the time, and how it incorporates that into what is on the plates takes time, a lot of attention, and perseverance. I even tried to get him to tell me, was there an instance where you wanted to give up? He goes, I always want to give up.
This is an awkward question for me, honestly. Sometimes I consider giving up when a dish doesn't work, but I just can't get over myself. I will put the idea aside for a while and revisit it. This may be a little embarrassing, but I do question myself sometimes. But eventually, I just keep going.
You feel like you're talking to someone that is just a master of their craft.
Yeah.
Not one to rest on his laurels either. Just always constantly thinking, right? I love that. I think that it's very important to keep on innovating as well as keeping true to, the dim sum traditions. I just love how this new generation of chefs, they're thinking about how to use their inspirations from their travels, like you say, Lisa, and just anything they pick up. But kind of injecting that into what they know and what has been passed down to them.
And also the fact that they don't veer away from the definition of the traditional. I mean, that's the easiest line to cross, right?
Yeah.
You get a bit too over-involved, you get a bit too inspired, or maybe you just keep running with an idea to the point where it loses its original purpose. For example, a dim sum is supposed to be something that you eat in lunchtime, in a gathering setting. And it's very easy to forget that, I think, when you're creating food as well.
It's like, when is a dim sum not a dim sum?
Right? And when you ask them, they actually tell you.
Is there a line?
There is. They were like, dim sum is supposed to be eaten in one bite. It was the answer I got from Juno.
I mean, yeah, fair enough.
Right?
Two, max. Two,
yeah.
Three.
Maybe for a chongfan, 2.
Well,
or if you may anyway.
Oh, it's char siu bao.
Well, it depends. But, it's supposed to be eaten very quickly, very flavorful. But, yeah, to keep that cap on yourself is also, I feel like, it's a challenge as well.
The most important thing to remember about dim sum is that it needs to be small and eaten in one bite. But besides that, there are no concrete rules for dim sum. If there were rules, it would restrict what I want to do. I want to find a modern way to reinterpret traditional dim sum. And there are countless ways to do it. As long as I think an idea is possible, I'll give it a try and do it.
It's really funny that you say the word artist when you were describing him, because it really seems like more than just a chef. Chef Juno is an artist. It's as if he is just kind of like a vessel for the art. He lets the art kind of go through him. There's very little ego. I'm getting that.
Very little ego from him. And I guess, Charmaine will agree with me. We've met quite a few people in Hong Kong that are chefs pushing boundaries, but they are also creators, innovators, and artists in a sense that choose to express their art on a plate.
I thought you were going to say we've met a lot of people with egos.
That too. So many.
So Chef Juno sounds incredibly innovative and talented. Which other dim sum masters did you talk to, Lisa?
Well, actually, I think one of the points we were trying to make was that it's not just about what goes into the dim sum. The dim sum is an experience too, right? It's had during what you usually have. The meal is called yum cha, literally translates to drinking tea. And at Chineseology in the IFC in Central, they thought that they would bring a new element into the yum cha experience. So instead of yum cha, we're yumming cocktails. And they're pairing it with not tea. And they've actually done a really good job combining that experience with some really tasty cocktails too.
Oh, so cocktails with dim sum. Why did they come up with that idea? How did they put that together?
I think the credits go to the bartender Fan Zheng. Fan used to work at Western-style restaurants where it's very common to have an aperitif. It's basically like alcoholic drink you'd have to have with an appetizer. So when Fan joined Chineseology, he saw how dim sum were kind of small in size, just like an appetizer, right? So that's when he started coming up with the idea to pair dim sum with cocktails, and he started experimenting.
I've prepared two of our signature cocktails for you. The first one is licorice-infused gin with homemade preserved plum liquor and Lillet Blanc. It pairs well with our flaky pastries, including our Iberico pork puff pastry.
So, the licorice-infused gin lasts quite long between mid-palate and back palate. So when you're eating the puff pastry, that also activates around the mid-palate as well. I don't know, experienced licorice tasters would actually like it for a little bit of a toffee taste. Also, after the first soapy taste that hits your tongue. So that's when these two flavors combine. I think I'm getting a little bit foodie and technical here, but actually it just gets to a point when you're eating it and suddenly the buttery, flaky pastry really gets amplified in your mouth because of the cocktail. So what I really like about what Fan is doing at Chineseology is not just trying to get you drunk, which is a lot of places that try to get you to do when you're enjoying a dim sum brunch, let's say. But he's really working the flavors together. And also case in point, so the next one he did is a very Chinese-inspired cocktail.
Everyone is familiar with ginseng, so we made a ginseng sous vide gin mixed with sweet vermouth and Campari.
So it's a little bit like of a Negroni feel to it.
Yeah, it sounds lovely.
We pair it with our xiaolongbao, which has Chinese yellow wine in it, so it matches the flavor of the ginseng.
So we kind of know that xiaolongbao already goes well with kind of a vinegary, sour, and ginseng kind of flavor. So it actually just amplifies, not just amplifies, I think this cocktail and the yellow wine xiaolongbao or soup dumpling, it just makes that yellow wine flavor explode. The ginseng really works with the Negroni if you're drinking it by itself because, again, Negroni flavors work well with a little bit of the bitter from the Campari. But then to introduce another wine in there and to bring out the flavors in that wine was actually very well thought out. Very, very complex.
Sounds really well-rounded, and you just want to sit there and savor it, I feel.
You do. And it's not just about drinking it. And then to have a cocktail pairing bring out so many flavors in a dim sum, that's actually quite fun.
Yeah, it seems like, in a way, similar to Chef Juno at Chinese Library, Chineseology, they are really thinking about how the flavors are working together. This time, obviously, incorporating drinks with alcohol, my favorite kind. And like you say, getting the front, the back, the middle palate, and just kind of embarking on this very interesting experiment here.
I mean, I really like how they're using some quite traditional Chinese ingredients as well, like with the ginseng and the plum. I mean, do you think they're going to be incorporating a little bit more kind of traditional Chinese medicine elements, or is that even in consideration when they're thinking about this cocktail recipe?
Well, Fan actually told me he did. Somehow, the plum, balances out, the more sharp alcoholic content of it. And, how the ginseng works with the sweet as well. I think it is incorporated and they do think about that because I think when you're a Chinese person that has been growing up, or Asian person that has been growing up with all this, food lore in your life, when you're incorporating it into other types of cuisines, it's not that balancing doesn't come into your mind. I feel like it's part of the ones of us that did grow up to it, even if you didn't even believe in it when you were growing up. More or less, you'd be like, oh, well, mom says that I need to, add this kind of tea to this when I'm having that. Maybe I should try that when I'm experimenting. I think that would always come into play.
Yep.
But it definitely plays a big part in the cocktails at Chineseology.
And also, do you think we've gone very almost technically into the food and the pairing sides, which is, obviously a big component of this place. Do you think there's a cultural element as well? Like you mentioned yum cha, usually it's done with tea. And I've got to be honest, as a Westerner, it has crossed my mind on more than 12 occasions. Imagine doing yum cha, right, where everybody's sipping on tea, having a good time around a big table. Imagine doing that with booze. I bet there's an awesomeness that comes with this. And what did you find on your experience to that regard? Because people are plenty open when they're yum chaing. With this experience, you had a bit of alcohol. Was the vibe just amazing? How did that affect things?
I think everybody was just enjoying themselves. I think it is early in the morning as well. Not early in the morning, but, when you're having, dim sum brunch with alcohol, everybody tends to pace themselves, if any other brunch. Of course, there's going to be a few people that will be a bit more enthusiastic, let's say. But in general, I think people were interspersing it with tea as well. Because, right, the cocktails do work with this certain dim sum, but I think it's still part of our diet or I think naturally for anybody, because dim sum does tend to be a bit more oily, the flavor's a bit sharp, and you do want to intersperse it with some tea. I think it's only natural for anyone to be I can't just keep eating this nonstop. You do want to wash it down, break it up with something.
For sure.
So, Lisa, after meeting with Chef Juno and bartender Fan, what surprised you about this new era of dim sum appreciation?
I think a lot of people should pay attention to the work and innovation and just perseverance of these guys into that one bite experience that you're having. It's great. It's fantastic. It's something that we overlook in Hong Kong quite a lot because we're so spoiled. We have so many good food, dim sums, old, new, classic. And I think we take for granted how much work these guys put in that, less than a minute experience that we have. And it's also something I feel that Hong Kong is on the forefront of. What do you guys think?
Well, yeah, I'd agree. It seems that there are a lot of people pushing boundaries, and it comes back to that word innovation, right, Charmaine? I'm sure, you've got more experience than I have with these chefs pushing the boundaries, so how would you react to that?
Well, yeah, throughout our conversation, it really made me appreciate how so many chefs in Hong Kong, like right now, they are doing so many interesting things. I was just thinking back to just the other day, I was at Little Bao, and Chef Mei Chow, she had presented something that she had not done before. She created this fish maw-filled turnip puff. So it was like a really interesting take because she took these two very classic things, which is braised fish maw and this puff, and put it together. And you're kind of like, why has no one else done this before? And I kind of love how thinking about the things that they're doing now, maybe like 10, 20 years from now, those are going to be considered classic Hong Kong dim sum of the 2020s, you know? When we were talking about endangered dim sum back in like the early 20th century, I mean, I wonder what people in the future, like 50 years, 100 years from now, might think about the dim sum that is being created now. And is that going to be considered like the traditional or the new tradition? You know, it's very funny to think about how dim sum might evolve.
Yeah, it's like history literally being made like in front of our. I suppose when you put it like that, it gives it a bit more, dare I say, like importance, right? This could be some of these trends that are being rolled out in the kitchen right now that Lisa's come across. Bartender Fan or Chef Juno, you know, this could be the new normal for dim sum in 5-10 years.
I think we should also find that these chefs and bartenders were lucky enough to be given the space and the budget to create this. I mean, you hear the experimentation process, it takes a while. And that's a lot of ingredients like down the drain, a lot of ingredients that gets ordered and not getting fed into paying customers. I think that like any other art, maybe that it needs patrons too.
This episode is brought to you by Cathay Pacific. Discover the flavors of Hong Kong on board with Cathay Pacific's renowned in-flight dining. From authentic Cantonese dim sum, a comforting bowl of congee, to hearty clay pot rice. Taste the difference in the detail as Cathay Pacific brings the best of Hong Kong cuisine to the skies. Indulge in this culinary journey at cathaypacific.com. So we're currently at Ho Lee Fook, located in central Hong Kong. It's a very famous restaurant known for its wok-fired cooking, but also something you may not know. They're also really well known for their dim sum. So with us is their head chef, ArChan and their dim sum chef, Winson Yip. Hey ArChan, hey Winson.
Hey guys.
Thanks for having us.
Hello, this is ArChan.
Hello, I'm Winson.
So we're talking about dim sum, which is a topic that we all love and is very close to our hearts. So how about you guys tell us, what memories do you guys have of dim sum when you were growing up? What was your favorite childhood dim sum?
I like the ha gao. Ha gao I know is very classic, the dim sum, but make the moment is very lot easy.
It looks very simple, but
very simple, but to make the moment is very long time, and learn the moment need to long time to serve.
How about you, ArChan? What's your childhood memory of dim sum?
I think childhood memory for dim sum is always family gathering. You know, you go yum cha, you eat dim sum. You know, even when I grow up, when I come back to Hong Kong, you know, visiting my family, my dad would wake me up at 9 a.m. when I want to sleep in, and he just go like, let's go yum cha. And then I think my favorite I think it's really hard to pick a favorite dim sum. But if there's a dim sum that I always would order, is the pai guat. So the steamed pork ribs with black bean and chili. Because I think that's what my dad always ordered.
Oh, true. It's always closely connected to the family ritual, as you say. I mean, how often would you go out for dim sum? Was it every week, every Sunday?
Maybe a Sunday. Maybe sometimes my family, the job is Monday to work to Saturday. That's only Sunday day off. Maybe we'll Sunday go to eat dim sum together.
My dad is retired and he go dim sum every day.
Oh, wow.
This is his breakfast.
Yeah.
This is his breakfast. He and my auntie. And the interesting thing is like he really would order like maybe 2 and drink the tea. When I joined the dim sum party with my mom, 3 of us would order like 8. And then my dad would be like, why are you ordering so many? It's like, it's dim sum.
Because you only go once a week, and then it's like, I need to order everything. I miss it. From the 6 days I didn't eat it.
You guys, you have a lot of experience with dim sum, but what made you get into wanting to start making dim sum, wanting to start cooking and serving dim sum?
In my concept, I like very morning, go to work, and then afternoon finish, I will happy. Maybe I can go to watch movie, go to eat food with my friend, dinner, gathering, everything.
And how old were you? Were you a teenager, early 20s?
I'm 18 years old.
18
years old, I just go to the kitchen school, learning 2 years, and then go outside in hotel, the dim sum session. Yeah.
And what about ArChan?
I mean, when I was in Australia, obviously, being a Chinese Cantonese, and I have also worked in restaurants that, have the Chinese cuisine. They are very obvious to go, okay, I want to have some dim sum on the menu or have some dumplings on the menu. Can you come up with something? I guess that the initial is probably from my heritage, being Cantonese and start to learn how to make dim sum. But if you ask me, the really learning curve is probably here because we have, Winson here and we have a dim sum program. And having him, the really good thing is because he has so much experience, there are things that he can explain really well, which is very different from, I would say, a lot of the dim sum chef. Because a lot of people can do because they have experience, but they might not know why. But he is the person I can go and ask, why do you put wheat starch and not potato starch? When do you put potato starch? Because these two starches not so much difference. And for him, he can touch the starch and he can tell me which one is which.
Wow.
Okay, and for example, using hagao as an example, is, sometimes the skin is maybe softer, sometimes a bit more chewy, sometimes it's maybe a bit thicker. And because of his experience, he can tell me why. And I think if I have given this opportunity to, I say, accelerate on dim sum, this is the chance that I'm going to take.
Wow. I mean, so Winson, when you were learning, were the dim sum chefs very open with their secrets for, like how you are very open with ArChan with the recipes? Was it difficult to try and learn from them, or how was your experience?
Before the Sifu, I will say Sifu is a head chef. Yeah, before my Sifu will tell me this starch and other starch different. Yeah, maybe this starch can dry the skin.
Very good, Sifu. He was very open in sharing the secrets of dim sum with you.
Yeah.
The really interesting thing is he would be like, okay, grab a handful, grab 3 handful, add water, fill. Then I would be like, okay, you grab your handful, I'll put a scale here and go, okay, this is this. So try to make kind of more like a formula. Because I think is sometimes the gap is, yes, you can feel it because you have the experience. But how to pass it on and how to teach, you kind of need some sort of formula or recipes.
Okay, well, let's move on to Good Fortune Club. It's a very popular experience here at Ho Lee Fook. People come and they have dim sum and champagne. Tell us about it.
Cool. So our Good Fortune Club actually started, I would say, about 2 years ago. I guess the experience we want to provide are different from a lot of the offerings. Outside, you also have dim sum and champagne, this combination, but a lot of the time, it's like free-flow champagne and then you have dim sum. I think the experience we want to offer here is a little bit more unique because we don't want people just come and drink and pass out. The Good Fortune Club is a 4-hour experience. You can gather with friends, just a bottle of champagne, you can order different type of dim sum. And the dim sum, we want to do things that are also traditional. For example, in the current dim sum menu, we have Sai Mai Gok. It's not even something I have tried.
It's quite old school, isn't it?
It's really old school, and so we want to do things like this, as well as items like, for example, Wu Gok, fried taro dumplings. It's not something we invented, but we felt when you go out and have all those dim sum, not a lot of people pay attention to the filling. The filling is kind of similar. It's like minced meat, So we think, okay, let's make something a bit different in terms of the filling. So we play around, bring back traditions and play around with things that you're comfortable with. It's kind of familiar, but different.
I love that. So the filling for this is, as I understand, a curried Wagyu beef and onion filling?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Taro puff, I write down on the menu at the moment, is very classic. And then I'm talking with ArChan. ArChan give the new concept for me, maybe. Winson, you can make a curry and potato. And the beef maybe in ao lam, garlic ao lam fan. Yeah, in Hong Kong it's very classic. Yeah, ArChan tell me, Winson, we can put this concept in the taro puff inside. Okay, and then I try, and then I think, oh, it's very good. The taste is very good. Very makes sense. The taro puff and inside the mix, yeah.
I love that you have two very classic dishes and you've kind of mashed them together and created this new love child between the two that feels completely new and fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the dim sum he mentioned he really loved is the ha gao. So for our ha gao, the minor change that we have tweaked is obviously a lot of ha gao have sun, have bamboo. But usually in the dim sum kitchen, they use tinned bamboo. So obviously for us, we are not just a dim sum kitchen, we are a normal restaurant, right? So we would consider to use maybe fresh bamboo. You know, you don't have that taste, and it's something that is probably quite minor and quite simple, but it elevates a dish in a way that you go, oh, it tastes different, it tastes better.
So how do you both draw the line on what is dim sum and when a dim sum becomes not a dim sum anymore? Do you have rules?
For me, the Cantonese word of dim sum, dim is a dot, sum is heart. And I think it have to be miniature. Right? It have to be almost like tapas. And the reason why I say that is when I was in Australia, you can have massive siu mai, and it's like a tennis ball, and they would fry it. To me, that's siu mai, but that's not dim sum. Okay, like the actual thing you still know is siu mai, but dim sum is something that you can, like, you know, me and my mom and my family, 3 of us can order 8 baskets. Because you have the variety. For example, we have a taro puff with curry beef and cheese. It's a taro puff. You look at it, it's a taro puff. The way we make the taro skin is a taro puff. We adjust the filling. And I think your question kind of goes back to when is it fusion cuisine and when is it not? There is a fine boundary. If you create for the sake of it, okay, I want to change something, let's put an element that I know how to do into this without a thoughtful process, that doesn't make sense, right? And the reason why we want to change this is because, for example, the other dim sum that we have is the turnip puff with daikon and ham, 蘿蔔絲酥餅. Now this one we have not changed the filling because we think this filling makes a lot of sense to this dish. So we haven't changed it for the sake of it. We have added a little piece of green turnip pickle, 青蘿蔔嘅 pickle, which is also a little bit unusual. But we think that makes more sense than changing the filling. Because when you have a turnip puff, you might think, okay, it's fried food, slightly on the oily side. From our experience, pickles help. So we don't just change everything for the sake of it. When we think, this is perfect, don't change it.
So it's a very calculated and a thoughtful process.
Yeah.
Still staying true to the essence of dim sum.
Before I, in other restaurants, see the mini burger in the dim sum menu, just, yeah.
What?
Yeah, but I don't know why it's dim sum. Yeah, for me this is a burger. Yeah, this is very
small, right?
Yeah, this is very fun. In my experience, very funny.
Was it served in a dim sum steamer?
No, yeah, just on the place.
Oh.
No bamboo, no everything. Yeah, just mini burger.
So I think besides the technique, the origin of the creation is also play a part. The size play a part, but the origin of because we know burger it's not Chinese food, right? So I think the origin of the creation also plays a part. So you mentioned about mini burger. What about the steam bun? You know, usually the one with pork belly inside, cucumber, and a bit of lettuce, kind of like a Chinese steam bao. 我當係瓜包啦。
瓜包 is in my culture is not dim sum. This is a 小食 snack.
I think maybe for gua bao, you don't make the gua bao. It's like not char siu bao, right? You don't make everything and then steam it and serve. You have to steam a bao. You have to, put lettuce. You have to put maybe a pork belly. You have to assemble. So that's why it's a snacks.
Yeah.
Because so steam it. If you put this on a dim sum place and ask, oh, can you make this for the dim sum menu? They'll be like, no, there's some other sections job. Too much, right? Because dim sum, a lot of them are steamed. That's true, because of for the service or fry. That's like one single technique, not like a salad bar and then you have to component and all this, and so that becomes a snack. That's a bit more labor or skills involved.
That's a really interesting definition that I've never thought of before, but that makes total sense, right? That can be a defining factor of it.
Going back to, what do you think different generations of dim sum chefs can learn from each other? From the very OG, older generation that you learned under your sifu, do you think like they can also learn something from you? Someone who's like kind of from a more kind of a different perspective?
好啦，我唯有講中文啦。今次有啲難度。其實互相學習嘅都有嘅，都好多嘅我哋。咁通常老師傅可能會覺得有陣時一啲新嘅嘢未必佢覺得未必覺得好啦，或者未必係肯去試咯。即係最主要都係未必肯去試，因為佢哋都或者會停留咗喺一個好 classic 點心嘅 moment 裏面。咁我哋有陣時依家可能後生啦，叫做呢一輩，可能我哋會有啲新嘅食材啦，或者一啲新嘅造型。咁有啲可能比較老嘅師傅未必接受到嘅。咁我點樣去說服佢哋？通常都會一齊做下先，咁再一齊食下，睇下嗰個反應，然後再望客人嗰個反應，等佢哋去了解個年代，每一個年代都唔同咯，咁樣咯。其實最主要都係溝通，我覺得係。
Okay, so I guess what Winson tried to say is for different generation, I think for him he's really skillful. He wouldn't be like, hey, Sifu, maybe you should do it this way. Because I think there's a lot of Sifu, they won't really accept it when it's too direct. And what Winson is trying to say is different generation might have different ingredients. And what he would do is he would try those ingredients, ask the Sifu to taste it together, see what do they think, and then see what they're suggesting. Then maybe throughout this step, when you have a good Sifu, they will realize, oh, that's true, that tastes good, that tastes better, the guests like it. Maybe I would try it. So I think that's his approach.
It's like a dialogue between generations and just figuring stuff out together and trying new things together as well. How often do you update Ho Lee Fook's dim sum menu?
Update the menu, I will watch the season maybe 3 months. 3 months, maybe we change the new menu. I want to take the season food make the dim sum.
And then is it tiring? Like do you sometimes get stuck and you get into this burnout phase where, I'm not really sure what I can create? Do you ever have those moments?
唔算好攰嘅 not very tired. I think the new concept, yeah. I just want to keep the classic taste in the dim sum. Just change a little bit the new concept inside. Yeah, for me it's easy. It's easy, yeah.
Basically, I think a lot of people when they create dim sum, they just want to reinvent something. For us, I don't think we're reinventing anything because siu mai is siu mai, tower puff is tower puff. But we try to take it further for a reason. We want to. Sometimes it's not even elevating. For example, currently we have he created a chicken soft bone siu mai, 雞軟骨燒賣. There might be some out there, but I have never seen it. So I don't think we created this for the sake of it, but we just think, maybe we want some texture in the siu mai. 雞軟骨 could work, and then we try. So I think the creation we have here is still very stick to authenticity, because I don't think anyone tried it and go, this is not siu mai. I think they will still think it's siu mai. But this is a different siu mai.
Yeah. I don't want to make the very fusion, the dim sum. Fusion maybe just photo put in Instagram and then I don't want this. I just want to keep the classic taste inside. I just want make dim sum maybe a new concept.
Yeah, not too wild or out there.
Yeah.
It's not just putting truffle on top of siu mai or
no,
caviar.
No, we have no truffle.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that we always include like a classic, because when we first launched the dim sum brunch, I told him I want to put 炸粉果 on the menu. So it's like a fried 粉果 with a supreme broth. And we don't really have to change anything, because to a lot of young people, that's new. But actually, that's old. It's just you have never seen it.
Oh, wow.
So, this is just like the sai mai gok. We haven't changed anything. But it's not easy dim sum to know how to make. So to a lot of people, that's new. But actually that's new, that's really old.
Yeah, outside is not easy. You can see the sai mai gok. The tabernacle dumpling is not easy in the outside. But in my younger moment, I feel lucky I have chance follow the seafood, learn this. But maybe I think 10 years outside, not many restaurants do that.
So that really brings us on to, I suppose, the final question that we've got, which is, where do you both see dim sum going in the future? Is dim sum going to change because of what chefs like you guys are doing in the city right now?
Now I just want to keep the classic dim sum. Maybe I see outside not many classic 嘅 dim sum on the menu。係啊，一啲傳統嘅點心開始少人做，咁我就唔想啲人忘記咗以前有呢啲點心喺香港出現過，而係好好食嘅嘢咯。可能一個點心以前有，依家冇，咁你如果好耐之後可以食得翻，有時我覺得佢可以令到一個人以前嘅回憶嘅嘢都會翻到嚟，譬如家庭樂啊，一齊細個同爹哋媽咪食啊，係有呢個點心喎，即係佢起碼可以諗到一啲或者一啲開心嘅事咯。
I guess what Winson trying to say, which I really agree, is obviously he want to preserve classic dim sum. He want to make sure we don't just focus on fusion creation. We have to go back to our roots, and because when the guests have the classic dim sum, maybe that will bring memories back. Because a lot of the time, dim sum yum cha is a family gathering. That's the reason why classic dim sum are getting less and less, because if you look at how, like when I learned how to make a ha gao, for example, there's so much, not only labor. It is a dish that you can't just, okay, I'm going to learn ha gao for 1 month and I can wrap ha gao. It might take 6 months, it might take a year. So if you look at, nowadays it's always like economical. If you look at ha gao, or even if you look at the puff pastry egg tart, it doesn't make sense to the economy for me to put that much time and to charge that amount. So I think a lot of the dim sum are disappearing because of that, and we feel we have a responsibility to preserve it. Obviously, we apply whatever we can to kind of make it a bit more modern, but not changing. You can still learn how to make the taro dumpling here, and you can make exactly the same outside. All right. So we want to preserve, but also cultivate interest. So people still think, oh, this is cool to learn. Let's learn it. It doesn't matter if it's local Chinese or Cantonese or overseas. We want to keep it so people, because if no one learns it, we will get old as well. And this will discontinue. So we have this responsibility to think we need to learn it, to preserve it, to cultivate interest. People kind of pay so much attention to omakase, sushi. They pay price. They pay good prices. That's like a high-level experience. We think dim sum should be the same. For the time you make it, for the ingredients, for the thinking, for the measurement, for the senses, for how long you learn it, it's not too far from a sushi. So this is what we want to continue to pursue. We just want to protect it.
That is such a good point because, as you say, sushi is seen in such high regard. People talk all the time about how apprentice chefs are only allowed to touch the rice after a certain amount of time.
Exactly.
I mean, the same can be applied to dim sum in a way.
Yeah.
There's lacking that kind of romance and understanding of the effort that goes into dim sum making that you guys are doing your part to educate diners about. And I love that about you guys. And I think it's a really noble cause, really, because, Cantonese food, dim sum, fantastic, extremely complex, and worthy of exploration.
I want to share the dim sum story for everybody. Need to know the dim sum chef how to make the dim sum. Too many people know the sushi sifu make the rice is very used to heart, go to steam the rice. But dim sum chef, same, very used to heart.
It all goes back to the human touch, the little heart, the dot heart that is dim sum, even in the making of it and the passing on of knowledge, right? Very human to human.
Love that. Perfect ending. Well, Sam, I think, recording bits of that podcast before a meal really did a number on my stomach.
I would agree. Ironically, though, we're lucky that it wasn't a dim sum meal because we'd probably be in a coma right now.
I was starving after listening to our podcast guest talk about the dim sum that they create. I mean, it's a great tradition, and I love that we got the opportunity to talk to a whole range of different chefs to find out, how they're preserving and continuing the tradition of dim sum for many years to come.
It does seem like dim sum, from the people that we've interviewed on this episode, it seems like dim sum is in safe hands, and it gives me confidence that it's going to be preserved and pushed forward for a new generation of dim sum lovers.
Exactly. I mean, let's try and keep up our end of the bargain too by supporting and going to the dim sum restaurants and promoting our beloved local tradition.
Eating dim sum is my favourite part of all of this. I love that goal. That's great.
Yeah.
But that is all we have time for today. To learn more about dim sum, you can go to scmp.com to check out our video and article. And stay tuned for our next episode in this series, which is going to be about, Charmaine?
Ooh, another topic that is very close to my heart. It is Hong Kong's baked goods.
Oh, I can't wait. Sounds delicious. It's going to be a carb overload, and a carb overload that, frankly, we're very excited about. So stay tuned for that.
And subscribe to Eat Drink Asia to make sure you don't miss it. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.